here we go. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to walk into a room. How to walk into a room. I know that sounds crazy. I'm going to tell you where the inception of this idea came from. In the early 90s, there was a movie called My Life starring Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman. And if you've never seen it and you end up watching it, get a box of Kleenexes. My gosh, even if you're a jock and you don't cry, you're gonna cry on this one. I promise you that. Michael Keaton plays a character by the name of Bob, and his entire life gets turned upside down when he's diagnosed with cancer, and he's given 4 months to live, which is not enough time to see his first child's birth. So he decides to make a video diary, hoping to pass along some wisdom to his future child. And so for the majority of the movie, he's talking into this video camera that he's making. And one of the things that he says is he goes, "Son, I want you to know how to walk into a room." And so the scene is hysterical. I don't remember what the pointers were because, again, I saw it in the early 90s. But I've got 10 things that I'd like for you to think about, okay? So when you walk into a room, the very first thing, number one, is mindset. Mindset, okay? So we're constantly paying attention to building our skill set and our mindset. So the richest mindset you can possibly have when you walk into a room is to walk into a room and be thinking to yourself, I'm happy to be here. I am happy to be here. Now, I know there's a lot of rooms that you walk into and you're not happy to be there. Trust me, I'm talking to myself. But when we walk into a room and other people see us, they can tell whether or not we're happy to be there or not. And I'm going to talk about energy here in a minute. But there's two extremes about when people walk into a room. Some people walk into a room like a peacock. They want everybody to see them, right? They got their colors all sprayed out. Their charisma is unleashed, and they're just loud about it, right? That's one side of the spectrum, and then the other side of the spectrum is people that they just want to crawl in. They don't want anybody to know they're there. They just want to crawl in, and slip out. But the sweetest mindset to have is to walk in and just be happy that you're there, okay? It's amazing how we can feel what somebody is thinking. Have you ever thought about that? You can actually feel what they're thinking. You can feel if they're in a good mood. You can feel if they're ticked off. When we walk in, we want people to know, hey, I'm contributing to this room. I'll talk about more of that in a minute. Number two is posture. Stand tall, shoulders back. We don't want to come hunched over, shoulders down, rolled down, staring at our feet. Here's the thing. Motion creates emotion. And so if your shoulders are back, your head is up, and that's the motion. You're taking this tall posture, meaning if you're 5'3", you're all of 5'3". You're not a 5'3" that's hunched over and now you're 5 foot, or if you're 6'3", you're kind of hunched over and now you're 6 foot. No, and you're every bit. I remember when I was a kid, I used to ask my dad to measure me all the time. Dad, will you measure me? Will you measure me? And we had this chart on the wall, and he'd put a book on my head, and he'd get a pencil, and he'd make a mark of where it was. And sometimes the mark hadn't moved because I just asked him to measure me yesterday. And so if it didn't move, I would say, Dad, you got to measure me one more time. Just measure me again. So I'd stand back up at the wall about 30 seconds later, and I'll stretch out my neck as tall as I can get it. I got my backbone as straight as it can be. My legs are locked. My feet are together. I got my heels pressed all the way to the back of the wall, trying to stretch as high as I can. And I'll tell you this. First of all, the book didn't move, right? But I felt strong. I felt big. And when you walk into a room, you're an adult. God gave you the gift of a beating heart. He loves you. And the people in that room, they love you too. You walk into that room, have a tall posture. Number three, energy. Instead of aiming for big energy or no energy, you want to just kind of slip in. Aim for this. Add a warm energy to the room. A warm energy. And in order to do this, sometimes we're going to have to leave some things out of the room. like the experiences we had on the way to that room. For example, if you sat through a horrid mess of rush hour traffic, you come walking in a room, the very first thing that you're going to want to talk about is this horrid mess of rush hour traffic and the idiot that cut out in front of you and how you wanted to get out of the car and go walk up to their window and yell at them. And so all that stuff, we don't want to bring that kind of energy to the room. We want to leave that outside of the room. So we want to walk in, and our greetings with people, they're positive, they're upbeat, they're warm with energy, not necessarily loud. That's not the goal. We don't want to be loud and obnoxious. We want to be warm. Walk into a room. When we walk into a room, when you walk into a room, the room gets warmer. It gets brighter. Number 4, to walk into a room, this sounds so fundamental, but can you imagine? You walk in smiling. Yeah, you're like, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I'm here. And to sincerely be happy to see each person that you make eye contact with. You know, it's so funny. When I was growing up, and again, I'm not really that old, but I'm old enough to have been around when there was no cell phones, okay? And so if you wanted to ask a girl out, you better practice in the mirror, walk up there and man up and, hey, how you doing? I'm Frankie. You new around here? You know, I mean, you got to practice up on your skills. And after you've been turned down 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 times in a summer like I did, you start practicing your skills, your social skills, and smiling and making eye contact. And I'll tell you, I'm real concerned about this next generation coming up, because when they go on dates, they either swipe right or swipe left. And I'm like, what happened to sharpening your skills, your social skills, making eye contact? You know, you're going to sit down at a table, young people, and look across the table and be nervous about making eye contact with people. And so we want to concentrate on smiling, concentrate on eye contact, and a smile that says, hey, I want you to know, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm looking at you. Number 5 is contributions. Everybody is either a fan or a vacuum. You're either contributing to the room or you're sucking the life out of the room. There is no in between. And here's the thing. God has made you so unique. He's given you so many talents. And the way he made you, he didn't make anyone else on the planet like you. So come into a room and make a contribution to the room. If there's a loud person in the room, don't compete with them. If you're a naturally a loud person, support them. Be the cheerleader in the room. If you're a quiet person in the room, begin to look around and say, okay, what kind of contribution am I going to make here? You know, you start looking at people like, hey, I'm in relationship with you. You're a friend of mine. And here's the other thing. Life travels at the speed of relationships. If you have a lot of good quality relationships, you'll find that your opportunities come around a lot more often. And the opportunities that do come are high quality opportunities. If most of your friends in your relationships are low quality, you're not going to get as many opportunities as the person who has a lot of friends. And here's the thing. Sometimes you don't have to have a lot of friends. You just need to have a keen eye for developing good friendships, not because they might give something to you, but you might be able to give something to them, and it'll be like iron sharpening iron, and it becomes one of the brighter parts of your life, having a relationship with that particular person. But here's the thing. When you walk into a room, you're either a fan or a vacuum, and so you're looking to contribute. Number 6 is interest. Focus on being interested rather than interesting. Sometimes as I listen to teenagers talk to each other, and it's like every other sentence, they're turning the topic back around to them. Every other sentence, some way, somehow, they turn it back around to them. And it's almost like there's war between, with teenagers. It's like, they talk about themselves. And then the other person, as soon as they have an opportunity, they turn the topic back around to talk about themselves. And teenagers, to me, it's like better than watching TV. Because they just go back and forth and turning the topic back around to themselves, back around to themselves, back around to themselves. Well, as adults, we need to be conscious leaders. We need to be conscious of the conversation that we're in. And let's focus on being interested rather than being interesting. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's favorite subject is themselves. And so I know you want to talk about you. And to be frank with you, I enjoy talking about me. But people enjoy talking about themselves, and they enjoy being around people who allow them to talk about themselves. Even more than that, they enjoy people who are interested in hearing them talk about themselves. So when you walk into a room, you will enjoy the room so much more. If you're not trying to turn the tables to talk about you and to promote you, you will enjoy it so much more. If you're sitting there and you're riveted, trying to discover new things about this person that you're talking to, and I'm telling you, it's a rush. Number 7 is praise. To inject courage. That's the definition of encouragement. To inject courage. Can you imagine just walking around the room injecting courage into people? I'm not talking about being full of flattery. People will sense fake flattery, and they'll look at you and they'll think that you're being fake and they'll resent it. But to give honest, specific, sincere affirmation, you're not a dope dealer, you're a hope dealer, right? You just walk around and you're just like, hey, if I notice anything good in this room, I'm going to mention it. It's just a sign of security to be able to be an encouraging person. Hey, I'm not here for me. I don't want to be the center of attention. I want you to be the center of attention. If you do anything good, in fact, I like that shirt. Hey, everybody, you know what? I like this. Does anyone else here like this guy's shirt? And I know that can come across like, hey, you know, what's your motivation there? Here's the motivation. God has equipped you with skills and talents and abilities, and we will never feel more alive than when we are giving. When we are giving and we are growing. If you're giving and growing, then you feel alive. The seasons of your life where you do not feel alive, typically you're not growing. If you're growing, if the relationship that you're in is growing and you're giving to each other, that is a fulfilling relationship. In your life, when you're giving, you feel fulfilled. And you're also growing at the same time. So giving and growing is how we get fulfilled. And so when you're giving praise to somebody, you're encouraging them, you're injecting them with encouragement and courage. 2 people are winning. You're winning because you yourself feel like you got muscles on your teeth whenever you're encouraging somebody. You got lightning in your veins when you're encouraging somebody. You've never felt more alive. And that person is like, man, I like this guy. I like this girl. They're really encouraging me a great deal. They'll look forward to being in your company again. Number 8 is countenance. Each of us have a resting expression on our face. It's almost like our facial muscles have a home. Sometimes that's a blessing and sometimes it's a challenge. For people that it's a blessing, it's like they always kind of look happy. You know, they don't even know they look happy and they look happy. It's just they're resting. They're like almost like it's like home for your face, a resting face. But for people like myself, if I'm not concentrating on it, then my face can look like I'm upset about something. So when we walk in, we're conscious of our countenance, and we want to come across like an approachable, happy, warm-hearted person. Because in reality, if you're listening to this podcast, that means you and I are a little bit similar in some ways. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening. And if you are listening, that means you want to be approachable. You want people to walk up to you, and you want to be able to connect with people. And so we got to make sure that our countenance serves like a magnet, like we're drawing people with our countenance. Number 9, I've got 10 points. Here's number 9. Saying goodbye is just as important as saying hello. We got to make sure that when we walk out of the room, we find 4 or 5 people to look at them in the eye and say, hey, man, I really enjoyed seeing you. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Number 10, ruin the room. When you walk out, make sure somebody misses you. Oh, man, I can't believe you're leaving. No, do you have to leave already? Ruin the room. And even if you're not an extrovert, even if you're not, charisma is not your thing, in your way, in your unique way, cause somebody to say, man, you have to leave already? Everyone is going to spend eternity somewhere. So stay ready.